Stop caring, 2 words, easier to say than anything, harder to do than everything, and more powerful than anything you have ever tried. Because stopping is not what people think it is. When most people hear stop caring, they hear give up, become cold, stop trying, walk away from everything that matters. They hear the version of not caring that looks like defeat, like someone who got tired and quit. That is not what this is. The stop caring in this video is something completely different. It is surgical. It is the trained, deliberate, deeply powerful ability to look at something that has been consuming your energy and make an honest decision about whether it deserves what it is costing you. And in most cases, the answer is no, it never did. You just never stopped long enough to ask the question. You have been giving your best energy to things that return nothing, to opinions that were never going to be kind regardless of what you did, to timelines that were never calibrated to your actual life, to people whose investment in you peaked a long time ago and has been declining ever since, to a version of yourself you keep trying to defend to an audience that made up its mind before you opened your mouth. And the cost is not just the energy. The cost is what that energy could have built if it had gone somewhere worth going. Every hour spent managing perceptions is an hour not spent building realities. Every day spent waiting for approval is a day not spent creating something that approval would eventually be unable to ignore. Every unit of care misdirected is a unit that never reached the thing that deserved it. The moment you redirect, everything changes. Not eventually, immediately. The first decision you make without running it through the committee of people who were never going to be satisfied feels different from every decision you made before it. Lighter, faster, more genuinely yours. 10 shifts. 10 things you have been caring about that have been quietly, consistently, invisibly holding you exactly where you are. 10 doors that open the moment you stop leaning against them from the wrong side. Whether you are watching this at midnight exhausted from carrying what was never yours, or in the morning finally ready to stop, comment below, I am redirecting. Number 1. Stop caring what people think. They are not paying your bills or living your life. Every decision you have ever softened to make it easier for someone else to accept was a decision you made for them instead of for yourself. The career path adjusted because your family had opinions. The relationship stayed longer than it should have because leaving required too many explanations to too many people. The creative work kept hidden because showing it would invite judgment from people whose judgment was never relevant. The version of your life that got built around the path of least social resistance rather than the path of most personal truth. And the people whose opinions shaped those decisions are not living the consequences. They are living their own lives, which are absorbing their full attention, and your choices are not a significant feature of their mental landscape. They moved on from caring about what you decided approximately 48 hours after the conversation. You are still carrying it. Opinions about your life are the cheapest thing available. They cost the person giving them nothing. No risk, no skin in the game, no responsibility for the outcome. They offer the opinion with the confidence of someone who will experience 0 consequences if they are completely wrong, and then they move on to the next thing. You cannot afford to make your life from that material. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The outside event is their opinion. The inside event is what you do with it. Stop giving the outside event more real estate in your decision-making than the inside one. Stop letting the free, risk-free, consequence-free opinions of people who are not living your life have more influence over your choices than your own judgment, which is the only judgment with anything actually at stake. Make the decision. Live in it. Let the opinions arrive and pass through without stopping. They were passing through anyway. You were just giving them a chair and feeding them dinner and wondering why they never left. Number 2. Stop caring about what you did wrong. That chapter is closed. Walk away from it. The thing you did or said or chose that you are still carrying around 3 years later. You have revisited it from every angle. You have run the alternate versions. You have identified the moment where a different choice would have produced a different outcome. You have apologized to it internally more times than you apologize to anyone affected by it externally. You have attached it to your identity in ways that make it not just a thing that happened, but permanent evidence of something fundamentally flawed about who you are. And yet the event itself is the same size it was when it happened. It did not grow. You grew the meaning of it. You expanded the narrative around it. You gave it significance that the original event, examined honestly and in isolation, probably never warranted. The past is not a living thing. It does not have the ability to come back and demand more from you. It cannot add new consequences to the original ones. It cannot grow in size or weight or relevance unless you feed it. And you have been feeding it. With every return, every replay, every new angle from which you examined the same closed event, as though this time the examination would produce a different verdict. It will not. Closed things stay closed. The only variable is how much of your present you are willing to spend inside them. Seneca wrote, "Everything is foreign to us. Only time is truly ours." The time being spent on the closed event is time not being spent on the open one, on the thing in front of you right now that is actually alive and actually yours and actually capable of becoming something if you give it what you have been giving the past. You are not what happened, you are what you do next, and next requires the attention that the past has been borrowing without permission for far too long. Stop revisiting. The verdict is in. The sentence is served. You are free to leave. Number 3. Stop waiting for their approval to grow. They liked you small. Grow anyway. Growing makes some people uncomfortable. Specifically, the people who built their relationship with you around a version of you that no longer exists. The version that needed them in ways you no longer need. The version that had limitations that made them feel more capable by comparison. The version that stayed quiet in rooms where you now speak. That deferred when you now decide. That apologized for things you now simply move past without ceremony. They will not applaud the growth. They will resist it, not necessarily with cruelty, with the specific behavior of people who find the new version of you confusing, who respond to your directness as aggression, who call your boundaries difficult, who interpret your confidence as arrogance and your independence as distance and your refusal to shrink back into the familiar shape as some kind of personal rejection. You cannot grow with their permission. The permission will not come from the people who benefited from the limitations. Waiting for it means waiting inside the limitations, indefinitely. Epictetus wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. The approval of the people who preferred you smaller is not approval worth having. What they are approving of when they approve is the caged version, the one that fit their expectations and their comfort and their own unexamined need to have you remain exactly where you were, so that the map of the relationship they built around you did not require redrawing. Grow anyway. Without announcement, without seeking their agreement that the growth is valid, without offering them a say in the direction or the pace or the eventual destination of a life that has always been yours to direct. The people who belong in your next chapter will meet you there. They do not need you to come back to the last one to collect them. Number 4. Stop worrying about what has not happened yet. You are bleeding energy on nothing. At some point, the planning stopped being useful and became a way of inhabiting a future that does not exist yet in order to avoid being fully present in the one that does. The mental rehearsal of the conversation that has not happened. The anxious simulation of how the thing you are waiting for might go wrong. The constant background calculation of what could fail and how badly and in which order and what the consequences would cascade into. The management of imaginary futures as though the managing were a form of protection against them. It is not protection, it is just suffering in advance of things that may never arrive. And the suffering consumes the same cognitive resources as actual problem solving. Your brain cannot fully distinguish between a real crisis and a vividly imagined one at the physiological level. The anxiety response runs, the cortisol rises, the quality of thinking in the actual present moment degrades because the processing power is being rerouted to manage an emergency that exists only in the simulation. You are solving problems that do not exist yet with the resources you need for the ones that do, and the trade is catastrophically bad. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. The future problem, if it arrives, will be met by a version of you that has had the intervening time to prepare for it. A version with more information than you currently have. More context, more resources accumulated from the time between now and then. That version will handle it with what it has. But that version cannot be built if you are spending the intervening time managing the problem in advance rather than building the capability that would actually help when it arrives. Release the simulation. Come back to what is actually in front of you. This moment is the only one where anything can actually be done. Act here, build here, everything else is weather." Number 5. Stop being loyal to people who are not loyal to you. That is not loyalty, that is loss. Loyalty is one of the most exploited virtues available. You stayed. Long past the point where staying was producing anything except the maintenance of a connection that had already decided what it was and was not going to become anything more. You stayed because you value loyalty, because you do not give up on people, because the history you share feels like something that should count for something even when the present has nothing to show for it. That history does count. It produced something real when it was alive. But history is not a contract. It does not obligate you to maintain a connection in perpetuity, regardless of what that connection is currently doing to your energy and your sense of your own worth. The value of the shared past does not require you to fund a shared present that is costing you more than it is giving. People show you their level of investment through patterns, not through individual moments. A single absence can be explained by 100 different circumstances. A consistent pattern of absence, of showing up only when they need something and disappearing when you do, of engagement that is perfectly calibrated to their needs and indifferent to yours, is not a circumstance. It is a choice being made repeatedly. Seneca wrote, "Associate yourself with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those who you are capable of improving. The process is mutual. If the process is not mutual, it is not a relationship. It is a service arrangement where you are the service and they are the customer, and the customer has no particular loyalty to any single provider as long as the service remains available. Stop funding the arrangement with your loyalty. Loyalty given to someone who is not reciprocating, it is not nobility, it is a subsidy, and the subsidy is being paid from a budget that has better uses. Release the ledger, not with anger. With the clean, honest recognition that some connections ran their course, and the most respectful thing available to both people is to acknowledge that rather than perform a continuation that neither of them is fully invested in. Number 6. Stop explaining yourself to people who will never get it. The right people already do. You have been translating yourself for the wrong audience, rephrasing the same idea in different words, hoping one of the versions will finally land. Adjusting your presentation to the preferences of whoever is in the room, softening the edges of your thinking to avoid the friction of being genuinely, specifically, distinctly yourself in a way that not everyone will immediately receive. Walking out of conversations feeling like you said everything except the most important thing, because the most important thing would have required too much explanation to be worth the attempt. The translation is expensive. It costs you authenticity with every draft. And the translated version of yourself, however well received, is not you. It is a version engineered for reception. And a version engineered for reception is a version that has been subtly distorted away from whatever made you worth knowing in the first place. The right people do not require the translation. They encounter the unedited version, and something connects that does not require explanation. They follow your thinking without a guided tour. They receive what you actually said rather than the simplified version. They are not confused by your complexity. They find it interesting. Lao Tzu wrote, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." The version of you that speaks to be understood by everyone ends up being understood by no one specifically. The depth required for genuine connection cannot be maintained while simultaneously managing the breadth of universal accessibility. You have to choose. Either speak to everyone in the language that reaches everyone, which is shallow, or speak to yourself clearly and find that the people who were built for your frequency find you in the honesty. Stop translating. Say the actual thing, in the actual way it forms in you, without the courtesy edit, without the audience management, without the preemptive softening of something that has not been received yet, and that might land exactly right if you would just let it arrive in its original form. The people meant to understand, you are waiting on the other side of the translation you have been providing instead of yourself. Number 7. Stop measuring your life against everyone else's timeline. Your pace is not your problem. Somewhere a schedule was assembled for your life that you did not write. By this age, you should have reached this. At this stage, you should have achieved that. The milestones were handed to you before you were old enough to evaluate whether they were yours. And you accepted them not as suggestions, but as benchmarks. And every year you failed to meet one became evidence in the case you were building against yourself about the kind of person you were turning out to be. The schedule is not real. It was never real. It was assembled from cultural averages and family expectations and the curated timelines of people on the internet whose actual lives bear no resemblance to their presented ones. You are measuring your real, complicated, specifically yours life against a composite fiction that was never calibrated to you specifically, and that has no mechanism for accounting for the exact combination of circumstances, setbacks, strengths, and detours that constitute your actual path. The measurement produces nothing useful. It produces only the low-grade chronic anxiety of someone who believes they are behind in a race that nobody officially started. Stop the measurement, not because the goals are not worth having, because the timeline attached to them was always arbitrary. The goal reached at 40 because the path to it required what the decade before 40 was building is not a lesser version of the goal reached at 30. It is a better equipped version, arrived at by someone who has more to bring to it. Epictetus wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish. Wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." The tranquil flow is available the moment you stop fighting the timing of your own life. The path is the path. The pace is the pace. The chapter you are in is the chapter your specific journey required. Racing to the next one before this one has done what it came to do is how you arrive at the destination without the preparation the destination requires. Your clock is yours. Set it to your life, not to the composite fiction of what everyone else appeared to be doing at the same age. Number 8. Stop performing your life for an audience. Build the real thing instead. The image and the reality are in direct competition for the same resource. Every unit of energy that goes into managing how you appear is a unit that does not go into building what you actually are. The careful curation of the public-facing version, the management of what gets shown and what gets hidden, the performance of competence and contentment and direction in the moments when competence and contentment and direction are precisely what you do not feel. The gap between the presented life and the actual one maintained at considerable daily cost, and the gap never closes through more careful management of the presentation. The gap closes through investment in the reality, through putting the energy that was going into the performance directly into the thing the performance was claiming to demonstrate. The person who is genuinely building something does not need to manage how they appear to be building something. The build is visible, not through announcement but through the undeniable quality of presence of someone who is actually absorbed in something real. That quality cannot be performed, it can only be produced by doing the actual thing. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little that is poor, but the man who hankers after more." The image is the hankering after the appearance of more than what is currently real. Stop hankering, start building. The image that results from genuine building does not require management. It is simply what the building looks like from outside. And nobody argues with something that is undeniably, visibly, tangibly real. Redirect everything that was going into the appearance toward the substance. One unit at a time, one day at a time. And watch the gap between the presented life and the actual one close, not through better presentation, but through the actual daily, unglamorous work of making the actual life worth presenting. Number 9. Stop grieving people who chose to leave. They made their choice. Now you make yours. Some people are not gone because something went wrong. They are gone because something went right. The relationship ran its course. The friendship reached its natural completion. The connection served the season it was built for, and both of you outgrew the season, not through failure. Through the normal, healthy, often painful process of two people growing in directions that eventually diverge beyond the point where the connection can follow. And still the leaving feels like a verdict. Like if the connection had been better, stronger, more carefully maintained, it would have survived. Like the ending is evidence of some inadequacy in you or in them or in both of you, rather than simply evidence that not every connection is designed to be permanent. The ending is not always failure. Sometimes the ending is the most honest thing the relationship ever did. The acknowledgement that what was real between you was real for a specific time, and that pretending otherwise would cost both of you something you cannot afford to keep paying. The volume of grief assigned to a departure is not always proportional to the value of the connection. Sometimes it is proportional to the meaning you assigned to what the connection proved about you. If they stay, it means I am worth staying for. If they leave, it means I am not. That equation is the source of the disproportionate weight, and the equation is wrong. Zhuangzi wrote, "Flow with whatever may happen and let your mind be free. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing. The centered person does not collapse when someone leaves, because the center is not located in the person who left. It is located inside, in the part of you that was present before the connection and that is present after it. The part that does not require the specific presence of the specific person to remain intact. Release the volume. Keep what was real, the warmth of what was shared, the growth it produced, the specific ways that particular person changed how you see. Keep all of that. Let the grief for the ending be proportional to the actual loss rather than to the story you built around what the staying would have meant. They completed their chapter, theirs and yours. That is enough. Number 10. Stop trying to prove yourself. The people you are proving it to will never be satisfied. At the root of most of the proving is one specific person who told you, early enough that it became architecture, that you were not enough, maybe in words, more often in silence, in the absence of the acknowledgement that would have confirmed it, in the consistently moved goalpost of what would be required before the approval was finally extended, in the standard that was never quite met regardless of how closely you came to meeting it, in the message that arrived not as a single statement, but as a pattern across years. You have not yet proven the thing that would make you worth it, and so you have been proving. Building an invisible case file of achievements and outcomes and evidence that was supposed to close the argument once and for all. The argument that you are worth taking seriously, that you are capable of what you claimed. that the people who doubted you were wrong and that the doubt was never warranted in the first place. The problem is that the person you were building the case for is not reading it. Either they are not watching, or they are watching and the standard has moved again because the standard was never really about your performance. It was about their need to maintain a particular dynamic in which you were the one who needed to prove, and they were the one who got to decide whether the proof was sufficient. You cannot close an argument with someone who controls the definition of sufficient. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Stop building the case file. The case was never the point. The life was always the point. And a life built to demonstrate something to someone who was never going to be satisfied is a life organized around a standard you did not set and a finish line you cannot reach. Build for yourself. For the honest, internal, nobody-is-watching version of yourself that knows what it is trying to become and does not need an external audience to confirm that the becoming is real. The proof accumulates in that version, not in the case file, not in the achievement list assembled for the people who required it. In the quality of the person you are quietly, consistently, without announcement becoming. That proof needs no audience. It simply is. And it is enough. It has always been enough. You were always enough. You just spent a long time trying to prove it to someone who was never going to say so. 10 shifts, 1 result. The moment you stop caring about their opinion of your choices, you start making choices that actually fit your life. The moment you stop revisiting the closed past, the open present gets the attention it deserves. The moment you stop needing approval for your growth, the growth accelerates past what their approval would have permitted. The moment you stop simulating imaginary futures, the real one gets built with the energy that the simulation was consuming. The moment you stop funding one-sided connections, you have something to invest in the ones that give back. The moment you stop translating yourself for every room, the right rooms find you in the language you actually speak. The moment you stop racing an artificial timeline, your own pace turns out to be exactly right for the path you are actually on. The moment you stop managing the image, the energy that was maintaining the gap between image and reality goes directly into closing it. The moment you stop carrying the volume of every departure, you discover that your center never moved. And the moment you stop proving yourself to the person who was never going to be satisfied, you discover the only proof that was ever worth building. The proof that is simply you, living your actual life, at your actual pace, in your actual voice, for your actual reasons. Stop caring is not the instruction to become indifferent to the world. It is the instruction to become precise about what deserves your care. Because your care is finite and it is being spent on things that are not returning on the investment. And every unit redirected towards something real produces something the old spending never could. The change that follows the stopping is not dramatic. It is not a single moment of transformation announced by a feeling of liberation. It is the slow, accumulating daily quality of a life that is using its resources on itself rather than on the performance of itself. That life looks different from the outside eventually, but it feels different from the inside immediately. From the very first moment you redirect. If this video shifted something, share it with someone who is exhausted from caring about the wrong things. And remember, stop caring. Watch Everything Changes.